My name is Faith, and I am 35 years old. I have been married to my husband, Ryan, for about 2 years. Ryan is an employee at a company. I own several properties and live off the rental income from these. I don't want Ryan to know that I own real estate, so I've told him that I work as a freelance administrative support online. In fact, when I have some free time, I do data organization and input work. If I told Ryan that I own real estate, he would probably quit his job and depend on my income, so I keep it a secret to prevent that. I married him because being with him gave me a sense of security. I wasn't sociable from a young age and had difficulty getting along with my parents and siblings. Currently, I am hardly in touch with them. After graduating from high school, I immediately started working in an office, but struggled with workplace relationships and couldn't keep a job for long. After becoming a working adult, I started investing in a mutual fund heavily promoted by a senior at work and sold it upon resignation, which luckily resulted in a substantial profit. Subsequently, I was captivated by investing and increased my assets through stock investments while working. About 5 years ago, I stopped stock investing and specialized in real estate investment, quitting my job to make a living from those investments. My husband and I often ran into each other at a fast food restaurant we frequented late at night, and he started talking to me. "This burger is really delicious. Even on days when I fail at work, eating this makes me feel like I can keep going the next day." I wasn't really listening, but my husband kept talking without stopping. I'm generally not good at keeping a conversation with strangers, so I ignored him and went home right after finishing my burger. Since quitting my job, I've mostly stayed at home, and even as someone as shy as me, I began to seek contact with others. I didn't need to have specific conversations. Just seeing and hearing people gave me a sense of belonging to society, which I found comforting. Thus, my husband was an annoying presence, but every time we met at the restaurant, he would approach me. I could have changed shops if I really didn't want to meet him, but I didn't and kept going there because I didn't mind it that much. After over 2 years of this, my husband suddenly asked me out on a date. "I'll treat you to something other than a burger. How about we meet up, just the two of us, next time?" It was an unexpected invitation, and usually the conversations were one-sided, so I thought about refusing, but after being persistently asked, I eventually agreed to have a meal together. Having a meal alone with a man for the first time in years was refreshing, and I didn't know Ryan well yet. I thought that Ryan would back off after we had a meal together, but I was also excited to feel this thrill for the first time in a long time, and I enjoyed the meal. Even when we were alone, it was just like the usual burger place, with Ryan talking to himself and me just listening. While I wondered if Ryan was enjoying this, he said, "I'd like to meet again," and asked me out. Since I hadn't felt any discomfort listening to him, I agreed to meet again and parted ways. The next time we met, Ryan talked interestingly about his work stress and complaints, and I never got tired of listening. Ryan works in sales, seems to be struggling with his performance, often gets scolded by his boss, and also receives complaints from clients. He vents his frustrations to me, and since I enjoyed listening to him, I didn't feel bad. After many such dates, Ryan suddenly proposed, "Will you marry me?" Seeing his serious expression, I was surprised, but since I enjoyed my time with Ryan, I accepted. Yes, I'd love to. Ryan moved into the apartment where I lived after we got married, and we started living together. I had bought this apartment for investment purposes, but decided to live in it myself as it was well situated with many convenience stores and supermarkets around, and it was comfortable with good sunlight. If I had known I would be living with Ryan, I might have chosen a bigger place, but I never thought I would get married. Before we got married, I told Ryan that I was freelancing to make a living and that the room we live in was mine, but I kept my other real estate investments a secret. We didn't have a wedding ceremony, and I didn't inform my estranged family about the marriage. Unlike me, Ryan maintained a good relationship with his family. Therefore, a celebration was held at my in-laws' house. I usually didn't like gatherings, but I attended the celebration at my in-laws reluctantly and interacted with my parents-in-law and Ryan's siblings. Ryan's sister had been married before but returned to her parents' house with her children after getting divorced, and his brother was still single and living with his parents. Ryan's sister seemed interested in my background and asked me in detail about my current job and the company I used to work for. She also seemed curious about why I owned an apartment. While I was talking with my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law joined in and asked me a question. "Faith, you own your own home at such a young age? Did your parents buy it for you?" Thinking that it would satisfy both my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, I answered that my parents had bought it for me. Then, my mother-in-law became interested in my parents' occupation and asked, "What kind of work does your father do? Is he a president of a company or something?" "My father is a regular employee and doesn't earn enough to buy an apartment." Since telling the truth seemed likely to raise doubts, I answered vaguely to avoid suspicion. However, my sister-in-law then delved deeper into my family's financial situation. "I wonder if Faith's family is wealthy? If so, could they perhaps enlarge this house for us?" she asked, hopeful. Internally, I thought that even if my family were wealthy, I had no intention of funding a rebuild of my in-laws' house. Their home was quite small, and it amazed me that 5 people from 3 generations were living there. However, from that day on, my mother and sister-in-law mistakenly believed I came from a wealthy family and began seeking financial support. When I refused, they started asking for assistance through my husband, so I reluctantly began lending them small amounts through him. Although my husband looked apologetic, he lent money quite casually, which worried me about whether we would get it back. Ryan's job wasn't going well, and his salary gradually decreased. His basic pay was low, and since his salary was heavily commission-based, his poor performance placed him in a tough situation. However, since our household primarily relied on my income, it didn't really affect us. Recently, construction of a new high-rise apartment building started next to our apartment, so I jokingly said to my husband, "Once the new building is finished, this place might get overshadowed. Maybe we should consider moving." Ryan didn't seem to take it seriously, but I actually spoke to a real estate agent. The agent suggested considering our current home, but also recommended purchasing an attractive property for investment. The new property was a single-family home, 5 bedrooms, barrier-free, and ideal for the elderly or large families. Suddenly, I remembered what my mother and sister-in-law had mentioned at their home. However, the house was not only spacious but also luxurious, and the price was accordingly high. Since the in-laws' house was in my father-in-law's name, there was no reason to sell the land or house to buy this new one. Selling the in-laws' home wouldn't generate a significant amount of money, while renting would be affordable for my in-laws. Unfortunately, I couldn't picture them living in an upscale residence. Having the funds, I decided to purchase this property and rent it out. A real estate investment required a considerable amount of paperwork. I accidentally left the materials for the new home in the living room. Unfortunately, my husband found them, and it seems he had taken them to his parents' house. Seeing the materials, my mother and sister-in-law mistakenly thought the house was perfect for them. At the worst possible moment while I was out, the real estate agent visited and started explaining the 5-bedroom house to my husband. "Your wife is really incredible. To buy a new home at such a young age." Hearing this, my husband linked it to the moving plans I had previously mentioned and completely misunderstood that we were moving to the new house. It's true that the construction next door would block some sunlight, but I had no immediate intention to move. It seems my husband misunderstood that I was secretly planning to move us into the 5-bedroom house. In hindsight, since that day, my husband's behavior towards me changed, and he became more clingy than before. Our marriage had been one of non-interference, which I found very comfortable. We had agreed to share household chores, but my husband often avoided them due to his job, frequently leaving the burden to me. However, he suddenly started actively preparing meals and willingly taking on household tasks. I started to feel something was off. He laughed and explained his change in behavior. "I'm just making up for all the times I slacked off." His grin was a bit suspicious, but the change wasn't limited to household duties. After a while, my husband abruptly announced that he had quit his job. I felt like sales wasn't right for me, so I'm going to look for something else. "I'm a bit tired, so I'll take a short break first." Given he had been working late daily and facing reprimands from his boss, he was likely quite exhausted. With enough financial cushion for the time being, I wasn't worried about him not finding new work soon. However, there were no signs that my husband was actively looking for work. He was just idly passing the time. Concerned, I asked him, "Why don't you start looking for a job? You seem to have recovered both physically and mentally, haven't you?" Usually calm, my husband suddenly became furious. "I am searching for jobs online. I'm still not over the mental exhaustion," he snapped. Given the invisible nature of emotional recovery and his unusual anger, I thought it might be best to let him rest a bit more. Then, unusually cheerful, my husband, who typically did nothing at home, approached me with a proposal. "I'm thinking of not getting a job but making a living through investing. Faith, could you spare some money to help me start?" I thought he was joking, but he confidently showed me his smartphone. "With FX trading, I can start with a small amount of money, so lend me some, please." His smartphone screen was filled with comments from people who had succeeded in FX trading, so it seems he believed he could be one of them. I responded with disbelief. These people were just lucky. If everyone could make money this easily, no one would work hard. However, convinced of his own impending success, my husband pressed harder. "I'll be successful, I promise. Please, just lend me a little money." Considering my husband's inexperience with FX trading and the low likelihood of success, along with the fact that we hadn't seen any return from the money already lent to my mother and sister-in-law, I couldn't justify lending him money with no prospect of repayment. Reluctantly, he seemed to have started trading with his small severance pay, but he didn't inform me about the outcomes. He boasted about making a profit on the first day of trading, but after a week he stopped reporting anything. Worried that he might have blown through all his severance money, I asked him about it, and he exploded in anger. "Why should I report anything to you when you won't contribute money?" he shouted and stormed back to his room. The man I married had changed, and I began to feel that continuing to live together would be difficult. My mother and sister-in-law frequently borrowed money through him, and if I refused, they would come to our condo and create a scene. Recently, with my husband having quit his job, he joined them in yelling at me to lend them money. Considering the disturbance caused to neighbors by the commotion at the entrance, I ended up lending them a small amount of money. But when I asked for repayment, my mother-in-law retorted angrily, "For such a small amount, it shouldn't affect you, right? What a stingy daughter-in-law you are. Don't worry, Ryan will pay it back." Seeing my unemployed husband being burdened by his mother and sister with the responsibility made me furious. Moreover, with my husband now demanding money from me, I felt that serious measures had to be taken. On this day, while my husband was at his parents' house, I went to check the newly purchased 5-bedroom home with the real estate agent. There were already tenants living there. As I was talking to the agent outside, my husband and his family appeared, each carrying travel bags. I thought they were secretly going on a family trip, but I couldn't understand why they were here. The real estate agent asked my husband, "Are you bringing such big luggage for viewing?" I also asked his family, "Are you going somewhere on a trip?" My husband laughed and replied, "What are you talking about? We've come to move in." My mother-in-law, smiling pleasantly, continued, "It's a 5-bedroom house, right? Then we'll live together. Buying such a wonderful house and keeping it from us, you really are different, coming from a wealthy family." Confused, the real estate agent hurriedly explained to me, "I told your husband that we were coming to see this house today, but I wasn't informed that the whole family would be coming." Taking the agent's words, my husband chuckled and responded, "Faith didn't tell me anything." So I asked the real estate agent, "You were hiding the new place to surprise everyone, right?" My mother-in-law, unable to hide her joy, continued, "I'm so happy to think we can say goodbye to that old house." Increasingly bewildered, I saw my husband's family trying to enter the new house, and I quickly intervened, saying, "I did buy this house, but someone else is living here." Just then, the tenants who had recently moved into the new home appeared at the entrance and shook hands with the real estate agent, confirming their residence. Seeing this, the whole family of my in-laws started complaining to me. My mother-in-law's smile disappeared, and she screamed with a terrifying expression, "Weren't we all supposed to live in this house? Why are other people living here?" My sister-in-law threw her luggage on the ground as she yelled, "I heard it was a 5-bedroom house, so I thought we were all going to live together." My father-in-law couldn't hide his anger and raised his voice, "We've already sold our old home. We have nowhere to return to. What are we going to do now?" I was just confused by their anger, so I asked my husband what was going on. "Did you lie to everyone? What's going on here?" It seemed my husband understood the situation. He stood frozen with a pale face and started talking to me with a trembling voice. "I really thought we were moving into this house. Was it bought to be rented out to someone else?" The real estate agent also started to explain to me in a low voice, looking apologetic, "I had previously informed your husband about this property. Was there a mistake?" I responded with a wry smile, blaming it on my husband's misunderstanding. Once the in-laws knew the truth, they suddenly started blaming my husband. First, my mother-in-law got furious and raised her voice. "Why don't you check properly? It's always the same." My sister-in-law said with an exasperated expression, "It's all Ryan's fault that this mess happened. He should take responsibility." My father-in-law also stared at my husband in panic and asked, "Where are we supposed to live now?" While my husband was unable to respond, the whole family of my in-laws started making a fuss, so I said to the real estate agent, "Please find them a house, and please look for a new place for me as well. A 1-room apartment for living alone would be fine." Hearing my words, my husband rushed over to me, visibly angry. "What do you mean by living alone? What about me?" I answered calmly, "You should live with your family. Also, please pay back the money you borrowed for your mom and your sister. I'll send the divorce papers later, so let me know your new address when it's settled." Leaving the in-laws clinging to the real estate agent, I returned to my apartment. Later, my divorce with Ryan was finalized, but his mother and the others showed no intention of returning the borrowed money. Eventually, I decided to proceed with legal actions through a lawyer to enforce repayment. Whenever I lent money to Ryan's family, even if it was a small amount, I always made sure they signed a promissory note. They gathered money from relatives and even risky lenders to finally pay back the full amount. Ryan's family rented a small house and started a new life, but his father had already retired, and Ryan still hadn't found a job. Their household was supported solely by Ryan's brother's income, struggling to maintain a family of 6 under severe financial strain. They were in such dire straits that they borrowed from dangerous people, and I heard rumors of debt collectors visiting them. Additionally, they struggled to pay for new furniture they had purchased for their home, while Ryan struggled to find a job. Meanwhile, after moving to a sunny apartment, I started enjoying a comfortable life again. Since separating from Ryan, I have often returned to the fast food restaurant at night, where I can truly relax. Occasionally, I meet new people, but now I take the time to get to know people properly and try to avoid acting solely on emotion.
Are you satisfied with your life, commoner? What are you talking about? I'm worried about you. It had been 3 days since my husband and in-laws had disappeared. Out of the blue, I received a call from my mother-in-law. When I returned from my family's memorial service, I found my home empty except for my own belongings. They had secretly moved out. Worried? You're making a living with part-time jobs, right? Did my husband tell you that? Yes, I wonder why he got married to you. My child just became an executive. With these words, the whole truth became clear. My husband had lied to his parents. He had struggled with the economic differences we had and had asked me to keep his salary a secret from his parents. It felt like a betrayal. For whom did he think I was keeping it a secret? Oh, you have no idea. What do you mean? It just sounds like an excuse to me. It was not an excuse. In fact, it was my husband who was working part-time and I was the one serving as an executive. Our life had been supported by my income as an executive. BTW, if you wish to live with us, would you be willing to bear the living expenses? If so, I will let you live with us. Are you being serious right now? Yes, I am serious. You just need to promise to pay for living expenses and in exchange I'll give you our address. I had never considered living with them, so I decided to fight back. I refuse. In fact, it's my husband who has been working part-time. I've endured it until now, but I've decided to get a divorce. Stop joking. Have you gone mad? My mother-in-law laughed loudly over the phone. You'll find out very soon who is right. Why don't you check with my husband? You are a very unpleasant daughter-in-law. I thought about helping you, but I've changed my mind. I actually prefer that. My mother-in-law retorted angrily and hung up. 10 minutes later, I received a call from my husband, likely bombarded with questions from his mother. Of course, I ignored it and even blocked his number. He must be panicking now. I decided to enjoy my freedom from now on. As a result, my husband and his family would face difficulties. My name is Jenny. I serve as an executive in the company left by my deceased father. I have 2 brothers, each holding the positions of president and vice president. I originally had a different job. During that time, I met my future husband, Nick. We met at a drinking party my friend invited me to. What do you do for a living, Jenny? Oh, I'm just an office worker. And you, Nick? I work in marketing. Marketing. I admire that, since I'm no good when it comes to conversations. Is that so? Looking back, Nick might have already had a tendency to exaggerate stories. At that time, I believed he was truly working in marketing. The conversation was so pleasant that we decided to exchange contacts. We regularly went for dates, and the comfortable feeling we had when we were together eventually led us to marriage. I think it's time I introduce you to my parents. Yes, the sooner, the better. How about next Sunday? That's fine. According to Nick, his parents would welcome me warmly. However, the reception at his parents' house was entirely different from what I expected, especially the cold treatment from my mother-in-law. Jenny, you work in an office, right? Yes, that's right, but... And how much do you earn specifically? When this question was asked, I deeply pondered the meaning behind it. How much? I inquired back. You're so oblivious. It's clear I'm asking about your salary. My mother-in-law replied with slight irritation. From this exchange, the intention behind the question was clear enough. What I really wanted to know was why my mother-in-law was so interested in my financial situation. My mother-in-law's question conveyed blatant disdain towards me. In such moments, I dearly wished my husband would somehow defend me. However, he sat silently, as if he didn't feel a thing. Even a word of defense from him would have been appreciated, but he remained silent. Let's not talk like that. Money issues will resolve over time. My father-in-law tried to calm the situation, but my mother-in-law countered, such matters should be clarified early on. My in-laws continued to argue fiercely in front of me, ignoring my presence. Sitting there, I questioned how to perceive this situation and what was being shown to me, almost losing sight of my original purpose for visiting. Eventually, my mother-in-law somehow agreed with my father-in-law's opinion, and the situation finally calmed down. On the way back home, "Why didn't you say anything back there?" I pressed my husband. "What do you mean?" He responded, surprised. "Don't give me the what do you mean? Why did you keep quiet?" I pursued further. My husband didn't seem to understand at all what I was talking about. I sighed involuntarily at his lack of response, overwhelmed by a serious anxiety about whether we could continue to function well as a couple. "Sorry, I just get nervous in front of my parents," he said. His expression was filled with a childlike sadness, as if he had been scolded. Faced with such an expression, I felt as though pursuing the matter further was somehow wrong. Eventually, we went through with our marriage registration a few days later and officially became husband and wife. After that, we barely had any contact with my in-laws and lived peaceful days. I have something important to tell you next time you come home. My brother unexpectedly called one day. That's fine, but what's it about? It's a bit hard to talk about over the phone. Really? Okay. I'll come home soon. I found myself heading back to my family home after a long time. My mother and brothers were living together there. I'm home. We've been waiting. Sorry to rush you, but could you have a seat? Yes, that's fine. Sitting across from my brothers, I could sense a tense atmosphere in the air. Unable to bear it, I asked my brother, "So, what's this important thing you wanted to talk about? As you know, we've been carrying on father's business." "Yes, I'm aware of that. So, we would like to welcome you as an executive in the company." "What? Why all of a sudden?" My younger brother began to explain. "You've always had a talent for judging people's character." "Wait, since when?" "Recently, someone we trusted ran off with our money." "What? Really?" "The person who took the money was an acquaintance from the time our father was alive. He used to serve as an executive, and so a position has just opened up. I found it hard to accept the proposal so suddenly. I can't give you an answer right now." Then, my mother also spoke up. "Jenny, I know it's tough for you, but could you help us out?" "Mom, are you feeling okay?" My mother had been frail for a year now, spending most of her time resting. "I'm feeling well today, so no worries." "Is the executive position really out of the question?" "It's all so sudden. Let me think about it." I left my family home that day without giving a clear answer, troubled about how to respond to my mother's request. Upon returning home, I discussed the matter with my husband. "Really? That's fantastic. You should definitely take it." He was surprisingly enthusiastic. "Do you really think so? After all, it could mean a better salary than what you're making now, right?" They didn't go into details. I fully support my brother-in-law's proposal. There was a specific reason behind my husband's fervent support. A week after discussing this with my husband, an urgent call came. "Please come back home quickly." "What happened?" "It's Mom." Upon receiving the news, I rushed out of work and headed to my family home. When I arrived, many people were already gathered there. In the center of them all, my mother laid quietly. "Please tell me this is a dream." I was unprepared for the sudden turn of events. It was unexpected. According to my eldest brother, when they went to check on her in the morning, she was already dead. I didn't have the courage to look at my mother's face directly. All I could do was stand there, stunned. "Jenny, where's Nick?" I haven't called him yet. I'll do it right now." But my husband didn't answer the phone at all. In the end, all I could do was leave a message on the answering machine. About 2 hours later, my husband arrived. "Sorry for being late. I was busy." Rather than sorrow, I felt angered by his attitude. How can you laugh? Mom has passed away. I didn't mean it like that. Whatever, just keep quiet. You're worrying too much. Until everything was over, my husband did not grasp the seriousness of the situation. While we were busy attending to the many visitors, it became late at night before we could even realize. Just when I was sinking into the sofa, exhausted, my husband made an unbelievable remark. With a smile on his face, he brought up the topic of dividing the inheritance. What about inheritance? Will you get something distributed? I can't answer that so suddenly. But your father was managing a company, right? There must be a considerable amount to expect. Stop it. It's unbelievable to talk about such things at this time. But this is an important discussion. If you're going to talk only about money, I don't mind if you leave. Okay, fine, I understand. With those words, Nick left the house. I could not comprehend why he was so insistent on bringing up the inheritance. Soon after, my eldest brother came by. Did something happen? It's nothing important. It must be tough for you. I never thought I'd be discussing inheritance or company matters at such a time. Normally, you wouldn't discuss such things. Besides, when you guys proposed to me to join the company, my husband was unusually eager. There might be some ulterior motive for his obsession with money. You might be right. I couldn't help but wonder why he acted so forcefully. After my brothers assured me there was no need to worry about my mother, I immediately prepared to return home. I tried contacting my husband before leaving, but he didn't respond at all. As a result, I decided to call his parents' house. Jenny, I've heard from Nick about the situation. I'm truly sorry to hear about your mother's passing. Did you hear anything else? Yes, I heard. According to Nick, you're trying to resolve the inheritance issue on your own. That's not true. In fact, such discussions have not happened at all. Really? Are you hiding something? It seemed like my words were not getting through. Anyway, now is not the time to have such discussions. How insolent. I'll take that as a compliment. Eventually, my mother-in-law could not stand it anymore and ended the call. She seemed furious. However, it was a trivial matter to me. I returned home, but my husband did not come back that day. He returned the following day. Where were you yesterday? Does it matter? I guess not. Our relationship had clearly cooled. Over the next week, there was hardly any meaningful conversation between us. My brothers took care of the funeral arrangements for our mother. Even after the funeral, I never saw my husband or his parents visit us. During this time, I made an important decision. I've decided to work for the company run by you guys. Is that okay? You can reconsider. Last time, we rushed and didn't fully listen to your opinion. Thank you, but I've made up my mind. It's okay. With that decision, I started a new career at my brother's company. I hesitated whether to inform my husband about this decision, but considering it would be more troublesome if he found out later, I decided to be honest. I'm going to be busy as an executive from now on. Really, work hard for me too. Of course, that's the plan. And so, I quit my previous job and threw myself into the business with my brothers. Every day at the new job was tough and exhausting, but it was also fulfilling. Half a year later, my husband unexpectedly said, "I quit my job." Why would you do that? Well, the previous job wasn't a good fit for me. But you were in marketing, right? Marketing? No, I was working in a factory. What? I was astonished by my husband's revelation. All this time, I had believed he was working in marketing. This meant he had been lying about his job since we met. So, you've been deceiving me all this time. Deceiving? What are you talking about? If you've forgotten, then it's fine. What on earth are you saying? That was exactly what I wanted to know. Regretting my marriage with him at this point was futile. So, what do you plan to do now? You're unemployed, right? I have you, don't I? You're an executive with a considerable income, right? At that moment, I finally understood everything. He probably thought working was foolish now that he had me. So, what you were aiming for was my income. Don't talk like I did something wrong, but it's better to keep the executive thing a secret from my parents. That's true. And I've decided to start sending money to my parents every month starting next month. I'd like you to handle that. Wait a minute. I haven't heard anything about this. I just decided it now. Indeed, it would be troublesome if my in-laws found out. However, I couldn't just accept it as is. But it would be equally troublesome if they found out you're unemployed, right? So you will have to work at least the bare minimum. What are you talking about? It's a deal to keep each other's secrets safe. This should put your mind at ease. Yeah, that makes sense. Then it's decided. All right, I really can't worry my parents, so please. With a sense of defeat, Nick lowered his head. I had no intention of continuing life under these circumstances. Afterward, Nick started working part-time according to my instructions. However, the wage he earned was extremely low. His working hours weren't all day, and he lived a life as free as during his student days. Even worse, he spent the money he earned on gambling such as poker and slot machines. You should go out sometimes. You can't always be at home. There's no problem, right? Let me be free. Gradually, Nick seemed to have forgotten even the promise to keep each other's secrets. From this point on, Nick's behavior got more and more unbearable. Despite being a part-timer, he started coming home late and going out more frequently. You've been coming home late recently. Is something going on? Oh, I've been asked to do overtime at work. But didn't you choose a job with no overtime? That was the plan, but it seems the situation has changed. Then why have you started to go out more on your days off? I thought I should get some exercise outside once in a while. You dress up quite a bit for that, don't you? I kept asking questions out of curiosity. Initially calm, Nick seemed troubled by my barrage of questions. How am I supposed to answer when you ask so many questions at once? Give me a break. I don't think I'm asking anything too difficult. Are you looking down on me because you're an executive? What? How did we get to that topic? If you want to mock me, go ahead. Wait, where are you going? Stop it. Leave me alone. With that, Nick left the house. Why is he so self-centered? In the end, he didn't return until morning the next day, and when he did come back, he went straight to bed without saying a word. Since it was time to go to work, I left the house. Upon arriving at the company, my eldest brother approached me. What's with that look? Just a lot going on. Is it related to your husband? Yeah, kind of. Do explain. My second brother also joined, and we all sat down to talk about the recent events. I can't believe you've put up with that situation for so long. I would have divorced in a week. I know it's not okay to continue like this. Is there something on your mind? Just a little. Well, my doubts and worries about my husband's behavior grew. I also strongly wished for him to return to the man he was before we got married. That's why I couldn't bring myself to be cold to him. But I soon realized that such lenient thinking was a mistake. It might be best to do something about it soon. Yes, definitely. My suggestion is, there must be a reason behind such behavior. We should look into that. Thank you. I'll do that. Following my brother's advice, I decided to investigate Nick's activities. I had no idea what he was doing during work hours. With the help of my second brother, I prepared to install small cameras. Be careful. If you get caught, it's over. Choose the placement wisely. Got it? I really appreciate this. You can check the recorded footage from your smartphone anytime. That's great. I'm not good with technical stuff, so this helps a lot. While Nick was out, I installed cameras in the living room, bedroom, and other areas. Anxious about the content of the footage, I couldn't sleep at night when I unexpectedly received a call from my mother-in-law. Jenny, have you quit your job? No, I haven't quit my job. Is that so? I heard from Nick that you had. No, I'm still working. Well, it doesn't matter to me either way, but you should be thankful to Nick. Wait a minute, please. I felt infuriated at the inaccurate information conveyed to my mother-in-law. Nick returned home with a smile, unaware of anything. I won big at the casino today. Here, this is a gift for you. What's this? It's a gift. He handed me several prizes. However, such things didn't mean anything to me. I got a call from your mother earlier. Why did she think I quit my job? From my mom? What did she say? Why did you make it seem like I quit my job? Oh, that. Well, and she said I should be thankful to you. Don't say unnecessary things from now on. Got it? I'll be careful. If something like this happens again, you do understand what will happen, right? I get it. So stop threatening me like that. It depends on what you do. After that, Nick's behavior temporarily became more settled. He started to take his work seriously, and the frequency of his outings noticeably decreased. During this time, I had to return to my hometown. I'll be going back home for a bit. I plan to return in 2 days. Understood? Have fun. It's not for fun. It's not a leisure trip. Well, don't be so stiff about it. Isn't it time for you to leave? All right, I'm leaving this place in your hands then. He seemed oddly pleased about me leaving. However, my mind was focused on my mother's first-year memorial. Upon arriving at my family home, my brothers warmly welcomed me. Thanks for coming. Of course, I came because it's Mom's first-year memorial. I see. But what about the camera situation? Camera? Don't tell me you forgot about the high-performance camera I prepared. It was meant to monitor your husband, no? Oh, you're right. I can't believe you forgot. Well, a lot has been going on, and I completely forgot. With the day-to-day business and issues with my mother-in-law, I had completely forgotten about the surveillance cameras. I'll check it when I get back home. Can't you look at it from your phone? That's right. Oh dear. As suggested, I used my smartphone to review the previous footage. The screen showed my husband preparing to go out about a week ago. I see. Did you find out something? Yes, it's quite obvious. Can you show us? I showed my brothers the footage recorded by the camera. The footage included clear audio of my husband arranging to meet someone on the phone and whispering words of love. It was undeniable evidence of infidelity. This is solid proof, definitely evidence of cheating. Feeling utterly disrespected, a wave of emotions surged beyond just anger. What a pathetic man. I can't believe even you misjudged your husband. I glared at my eldest brother. Don't look at me so sharply. I was just joking. After my mother's first-year memorial was over, I hurried back home. I tried contacting my husband, but there was no response. Upon returning home, the sight that greeted me was unbelievable. Everything except my belongings had been taken away. I also tried contacting my in-laws, but there was no response from their side either. The only thing left was the camera I had installed. I immediately checked the recorded footage. It showed my husband and my in-laws talking, and their conversation was clearly audible. This should be enough. I wonder how she'll react when she comes back. Let's go. We have no more business here. Yes, let's. Hearing these conversations, I realized there was a larger scheme at play. Filled with anxiety, I headed to my in-laws' house, which was about a 40-minute train ride away. Facing the reality of my in-laws' house now being a plot for sale forced me to confront the situation head-on. As I stood there, a neighbor approached me. If you're looking for the family that lived there, they moved out a few days ago. Do you know where they went? I'm not sure, but they were quite pleased, saying they'd be living with their talented son. I appreciate the information, thank you. From that moment, I resolved to get revenge. Upon returning home, I tried to figure out a plan, but finding their whereabouts and establishing contact proved difficult. 3 days after my husband and in-laws vanished, I received an unexpected call from my mother-in-law. Are you satisfied with your life, commoner? What are you talking about? I'm worried about you. All of a sudden, I received a call from my mother-in-law. Worried? You're making a living with part-time jobs, right? Did my husband tell you that? Yes, I wonder why he got married to you. My child just became an executive. With these words, the whole truth became clear. My husband had lied to his parents. He had struggled with the economic differences we had and had asked me to keep his salary a secret from his parents. I felt betrayed. For whom did he think I was keeping it a secret? You have no idea. What are you talking about? It just sounds like an excuse to me. Do you really think everything Nick says is correct? Is it so wrong to trust my own son? In fact, it was my husband who was working part-time and I was the one serving as an executive. Our life had been supported by my income as an executive. BTW, if you wish to live with us, would you be willing to bear the living expenses? If so, I will let you live with us. Are you being serious right now? Yes, I am serious. You just need to promise to pay for living expenses, and in exchange I'll give you our address. I had never considered living with them, so I decided to fight back. I refuse. In fact, it's my husband who has been working part-time. I've endured it until now, but I've decided to get a divorce. Stop joking. Have you gone mad? My mother-in-law laughed loudly over the phone. You'll find out very soon who is right. Why don't you check with my husband? You are a very unpleasant daughter-in-law. I thought about helping you, but I've changed my mind. I would actually prefer that. My mother-in-law retorted angrily and hung up. Shortly afterward, I received a call from my husband, likely bombarded with questions from his mother. Of course, I ignored him and even blocked his number. I decided to enjoy my freedom from now on, which would surely put my husband and his family in a difficult situation. The next day, I resolved to move out. Even if they visited, I would no longer be there. It was only fair to return the treatment I had received. After discussing the situation with my two brothers, we immediately headed to a local real estate agency. I sought a new place to live as quickly as possible. We have a property available for immediate move-in, but the rent is somewhat high, the agent said. That's fine. I'll take that property. Understood. Let's proceed with the paperwork. I completed the contract that day and contacted a moving company. Luckily, only my belongings needed to be moved, so the relocation was swift. In my new home, I immediately felt relaxed. I hadn't realized how comfortable it could be to live alone. About 2 weeks later, I noticed many missed calls from my mother-in-law on my phone. Having already blocked my husband, any contact would have to come from her. Despite feeling annoyed, I decided to answer. However, it wasn't my mother-in-law on the other end. Where are you? I can't get into the house. Didn't I tell you? I moved out. You moved out. Why? You started it. I just did the same. Wait a minute. What about our lives from now on? It all began with your lies. That's none of my concern. That's them. Also, I intend for us to part ways. I'll send the divorce papers by mail, so could you give me your address? Nick then started laughing. I see, so you don't know our address, huh? Then divorce is impossible, right? Realizing his tactic, I understood. However, I'm not one to give up so easily. It's true I don't know the address, but I won't give up over that. A little investigation will solve that. Wait, wouldn't it be strange for you and me to part ways? What's so strange about that? Just tell your mother the truth and clear things up. All right, I'll talk to her properly. I can't trust your words. Goodbye. After ending the call, I immediately went to a lawyer. My eldest brother had recommended a consultation with our business's legal advisor. I explained the situation in detail, including the recorded footage and everything that had led up to this point, and they were happy to take on the case. They started arranging for the divorce proceedings right away. A few days later, I left a voicemail message for my mother-in-law. A week later, Nick and his parents showed up at the agreed place. Let's keep this brief, since you've made us come all the way here. Of course, that was the plan. Hiring a lawyer, are we? How desperate must you be? My mother-in-law laughed, but Nick's complexion had gone pale. In fact, he had not yet told his parents the whole truth. This situation was to my advantage. The conversation quickly moved to the main issue. First, based on Nick's infidelity, I demanded divorce and compensation. What are you talking about? Please, take a look at this. I presented the recorded footage. This is the evidence. Do you have any objections? Nick fell silent. Nick, what is all this? Explain yourself. Well, actually, this isn't the only thing. I then presented documents related to the claim for compensation. The documents detailed unpaid living expenses, lack of cooperation in household chores, providing false information to his parents, and the emotional damage done to me. What is this? This is all lies. Isn't this a bit too harsh? Even my father-in-law, who had been hesitant for a while, finally broke his silence. To tell the truth, I wasn't much interested in my father-in-law's opinion, but if there was going to be a confrontation, I wouldn't hold back. If you're going to insist, then take a look at this. I presented my business card to Nick's parents. What's this? Let me see that closely. They were engrossed in the business card. It had my name and position listed on it. This is the reality, the truth that Nick has been hiding all along. What about the part-time job? That was Nick's doing. In reality, I've been supporting our household. Nick has been squandering his earnings on gambling. Hearing this, Nick's parents' anger turned towards him. So, the entire livelihood has been. Correct. I've been supporting it. Nick, what does this mean? Were we wrong? It's too late for that. Why did you do this? Truly disgraceful. I just didn't want to worry you two. The situation was enveloped in an atmosphere that seemed like a family argument was about to start. It was a family problem that seemed impossible to resolve. Could you please take your family arguments elsewhere? I don't have the luxury to deal with this. To this, my in-laws changed their attitude and showed an apologetic stance. Jenny, please forgive us. The truth is, we're victims too. My wife's right. It's not like we ever hated you, Jenny. Even if you say so, my feelings won't change. The apologies at this point felt pitiful. Looking at Nick, he was hanging his head, unable to speak. Anyways, can you please sign this for me? Huh? I want to end this situation quickly. You don't have the right to refuse. Understood. Nick signed the divorce papers with tears in his eyes. After checking the signature, I left the place. Goodbye. As I walked away, I could hear the arguments of Nick and his parents spilling outside. What lies ahead is uncertain, but a stable life will be difficult for them. Their life was sustainable only because of my support. Such a foolish family. Later, I submitted the divorce papers through my legal representative. I was finally free. Is the divorce finalized? You've heard? That was quick. Well, he's the company's legal advisor. Still, this should lift the burden. Now you can focus on your work, is what my eldest brother said, but according to my younger brother, he was pretty worried about me. It seems my eldest brother was worried about me in his own way. I heard about my ex-husband's current situation through the liar. As expected, Nick's mistress, upon learning the truth, disappeared as well. Of course, it didn't end there. I received a proper goodbye payment in the form of compensation. Later, my mother-in-law contacted me. There's something I'd like to discuss. If you don't mind, there could only be one thing she desired in this situation. You're in need of money, aren't you? We can't go on like this. It was all Nick's fault. No, 3 adults should be able to manage somehow. Even after all this pleading, you still won't help us. There's no reason for me to help. You deserve to be unhappy. That's exactly what I'd like to say to you. Goodbye. Currently, I hear that my in-laws are living in poverty together. This is because they were completely dependent on Nick for their living expenses, whereas the actual financial support was coming from me. Now, I enjoy a life free from anyone's constraints. Work is going well, and my days are fulfilling. Today, under the clear sky, I embark on a new day.